Thank you very much, Veli, and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to our final matchup of the day here between the Soniqs and indeed, it's been quite a few years since even I've said this name as well, Astralis. Now here in Siege for the first time in North America, taking up the mantle of the former Disrupt roster. Obviously, the roster itself has not changed in any meaningful way, but the colors behind them very much have changed from a yellow to a red, and now we get to see that will fire them up for this upcoming match and hopefully allow them to get a better placement. They've been slowly inching their way up ever since last year when they started out here in the NAL, starting out, I believe, with an 8th place, moving up to 7th to end 2020, and now getting 4th and 5th place so far on the inside of this year. Obviously looking to improve that, though, with a new org behind them.
Yeah, honestly, you know, it's just so exciting to have a team like Astralis or an organization like Astralis inside of Rainbow Six. And as you said, John, it's been a long time since you said this name. And the last time around, they were probably going for the IEM Gold Slam as well. So, I mean, this time we have a Grand Slam, Gold Slam, Grand Slam. It's gold bars. Come on, man. Give me something here. But anyways, you know, it's extremely exciting for this roster. I think that this is really what Astralis needed to push them over the edge and really get this team firing on all cylinders, because they have been looking so solid throughout the entirety of 2021 thus far, and stage 3 could be their time to try and take that crown that they're looking for.
Well, as usual, we do have our community poll for this upcoming matchup between Shuttle and Rexit, who led their squads in 1vx wins last stage. We want to know which player's going to clutch it up today. Once again, your choices here are Shuttle from Astralis and Rexit from the Soniqs. Feel free to submit your vote either here in the Twitch chat or on one of the plenty of other platforms. We'll probably have that poll up on right now.
And make sure you guys go to all of those social channels and check those out. Make sure to get those votes in. See which one of these members end up taking that poll. But either way, Astralis going to be going up against the Soniqs, and the Soniqs just getting back from the long trek as well, depending on where you were coming from, to Mexico City, where we saw a pretty lackluster showing from them. Honestly, just very slow overall, and just not the greatest showings on any of the maps that we'd been used to them playing. And this is going to be yet another showing on a map that we are used to them playing. It's Chalet in between Astralis and Soniqs for the very first time with these two names. Let's get right into it.
Much like with TSM, though, the negatives from Mexico do need to have an asterisk put on them, and the fact that, okay, that was international competition. We're back on the regional land now. And inside of this region, Soniqs are still very dominant. The only team so far, I believe, in stages 1 and 2 to maintain their top 4 position. And overall, some of the strongest individual players, notably Rexin, who is number 2 in both rating and kill-death ratio from stage 2 on their roster as well. So this is still a very dangerous team, despite some of the issues that may have started to pop up in Mexico. We got the bans up on the screen, though. Nothing too surprising so far, though the Sledge one certainly going to mess up a normal attacking team's routes. However, it's Soniqs' own ban, so they certainly will come into this with a plan to counter that. Valkyrie will be their second choice as we go over to the final Astralis ban.
Yeah, we'll see what they want to try and fill that vertical player's position with, but we're going to have our last bands coming in here, and Astralis are going to actually remove Vigil. So we got 2 big bands standing out here. Obviously, Thatcher and Valkyrie making a lot of sense, but Sledge and Vigil, both obviously pulling things away from these teams in different aspects. Sledge with that vertical play, as well as Vigil with that roam potential, and obviously the potential to get around a lot of these drones as well. So we'll have to see what both of these squads now want to do. For the Soniqs, they'll be simply bringing Zofia for one of those soft destructors, Yana working her way in as we would normally expect, and Flores as of right now locked in as well. We'll see what the 6 picks are looking like across the board.
No Flores, unfortunately, as we are going to lose that, although he'll certainly pop up, based on my guess, at least once sometime in this matchup, as he's been a very popular pick here. Lion instead will come into the fold, a usual mainstay for the Soniqs attack, although not necessarily on cans and super, if memory serves me correctly. He's usually the one to pick up this operator, so slightly different role than what we're used to seeing, but that all lines up pretty well when you look at what the rest of the team is needing to pull off for this map as well. Talking more about the defense, Astralis will start themselves out their very first round, an open professional play coming up here on the upstairs hold inside of Master and Office, bringing a usual assortment of mitigation to try and slow down the push from the Soniqs.
Yeah, this is our usual cast of characters when it comes to the Office Master defense. Just want to make sure to try and stave off the offense from gaining any control around the immediate site for as long as humanly possible, especially when it comes to Solarium. We've been seeing a ton of teams setting things up around this area, and Astralis are going to take it even one step further. So it looks like some adjustments made, away from the default that we usually see on this side of this site. So they're going to be holding things down inside of Trophy as well, 2 ADSs as well as a laser gate. So that's 3 throwables that Soniqs will have to use just to try and get anything in towards the staircase for Solarium. But it's not going to mean too much. Grixer's actually going to start us off immediately here, not even 30 seconds off the board, and he'll take down J9. Those were my discs going to be lacking inside of this round.
Astralis missing the note a little bit on the opening of the window towards the back side of Masters. There was no one from the Astralis side of things actively holding on the inside of it, so they will end up losing a first player due to that misread on the situation. And now Soniqs will have that first kill to build up from. A little bit more aggressive they can be here now. They can take a somewhat free player loss, and it won't be the end of the world for their ability to frag out in the midst of this situation because they have the extra player now. As we can see here, Iconic going to continue to look for some trouble over by the Ego entryway. Not going to get any sort of challenges as of yet, but they will be showing up soon. Soniqs are working on pinching both the main hallway outside from Library as well as the Ego balcony to try to work their way forward to the inside of the map here and pinch out control of the site. Iconic will be the main player standing in the way of this, so as usual, a lot of the pressure for the frags going to come from him.
He is the point man for this situation, but the issue is that he's also been read out. This drone has gotten so much information from Ego Balcony. They know exactly where this player is residing. He's going to be quickly dealt with. Is Retro trying to get any frags that he possibly can find, but no one going to continue to peek the balcony door. Iconic now down and unrecoverable, all things considered here. Soniqs simply taking their time, slowly wrapping themselves around this site. Actually, Yana gonna end up going down here as well.
That was the pickup from Retro that found that, by the way.
Oh, very nice, very nice. So Retro actually did end up getting that damage off onto that player. But either way, they'll still be able to get him back up and use that drone once again here. And you can see Soniqs simply waiting to see what their next move can possibly be, and they're gonna clean up literally everything. The patience right now for them, waiting for Astralis to make their move. They'll be able to kill the flank, and now it's all down to a singular member. It's going to be DP Fire by himself after he picks up one.
Sneaks in for a first kill there. However, will he be able to get any further than this? That's now the question. Realizes that deployable shield is going to make the angle on the right side a bit too tricky. Tries to go the office route instead. This is where the team's setup now turns against them. The attackers can use that soft breach in the wall. The DP Fire's left to absolutely destroy him if he moves forward, but instead, it's DP Fire to destroy Rexon. This is the tough part, though. He's breached his way forward into the site. As he moves his way further in there, Nitro's all going to work its way out. He finds another kill for 3 overall in the round. All of a sudden, it's just him versus 2. A very healthy amount of damage going to be thrown onto DP Fire here, however. Super should be in a good position to shut him down, but he actually hops up, gets the quad. No, the ace is only one more kill away, but it's Grixer, the man who went down earlier, saves the day at the end of the round as he saves this one from going out of the control of the Soniqs.
Well, you might as well give that round to Grixer overall. That's a triple for him on the round. I mean, he gets the initial pick. He does all that work from Ego. He gets the drone info on Iconic. I mean, what didn't he do to make sure that round went the way of, the Soniqs?
It's a darn good thing they immediately prioritized getting him back up, because if they did not do that, that probably would have been a lost round. The dude literally gets a frag kill like 3 seconds after he's brought back up. So very much needed member of the Soniqs roster. I think we were talking about his and Rexon's statistics in the league overall, as a lot of them maintain top 5 positions in multiple categories for the league on a stage-to-stage basis. So once again, definitely want to keep those top players in play, considering the way that panned out at the end of our last round there.
Yeah, I would love to talk about these stats right now if you hear something crazy from the Soniqs last stage. So Super was -22, Kansan was -10, Yeti was +2, but it gets so much better from here on out, my friend.
I think I know what these next two are, too.
Grixer +27, Rexon +34.
Just a solid, like, 24 kill jump from the 3rd to the 4th player.
Like, man, that's like if you went to Costco and you started, like, dumping frags into your cart. Like, that's just so many kills, man. It's so much. Oh, but I mean, it shows right there exactly why, you know, those stats are what they were able to muster. I mean, these guys are so influential inside of these rounds time and time again, but that's only round one. We still got a lot of rounds to play in between these two, and to be honest, Astralis a pretty lackluster start there. I definitely think that was a failure to launch, at least for round one. So let's see what they can do the second time around, as they'll be going back to the same site.
And I mean, credit where credit is due. The big thing we always talk about with Astralis or Disrupt, once again, if anyone's just joining us and confused about why we're saying Astralis, it's because they just got bought out. They're Astralis now. They're no longer Disrupt.
The Disrupt Twitter doesn't even exist anymore. It's just Astralis.
Someone else took it over, actually. Someone else is like got on like a locked account already.
Oh, dang, really?
Yeah, no.
Yo,
go back
the
to
internet's quick, man.
But yeah, so the big thing that we talked about through the course of this year with Astralis is the fact that everything seems so heavily reliant in Stage 1 on Iconic, and we've seen a shift away from that now. Obviously, given the last round there, DP Fire very much can carry his own weight in this regards. I personally think J9O can as well. This is a team that's very much leveled itself up, and in my opinion, quite a bit from where they were at the beginning of this year versus where they are now, but still some issues to be fixed, clearly, as we can see here. So working on trying to rectify things, making a little bit more of a confident hold here as we go into their second defense.
I would completely agree with you about Astralis' camp. I think that it's gotten to the point now where you can't just point a finger at one thing and be like, oh, simply this is the reason why they're not successful. They have all of the talent that they need. They have the coaches in place now, as well as the org to back them. I mean, there isn't a single thing for Astralis to really point at and be like, oh, well, this is why we can't be successful. So I'm extremely excited for their future and what they can possibly get done inside of Stage 3. We're about halfway through round 2 now, folks, as well. We're going to have a drone here from Yeti, very well placed. He'll be reading out J9 currently playing the half wall inside of Office, so more than likely a lot of artillery to fly in, and that's exactly what's going to happen right on cue, just like it was scripted. J9 will lose his life to the secondary frag grenade poured in.
Second round in a row now, too, that Astralis have lost their opening player as a result, of a drone sneaking its way into Office and it not being caught. That's going to be an even further pushing of the envelope here by the Soniqs roster now. They get a second frag. It's J9O and Iconic, two of the big fragging players down for the Soniqs, and it continues to get worse as Retro now falls. DP Fire might have to clutch things out again, although Kansan is going to get dropped, although he's in a retrievable position as DP Fire now gets taken down as he attempts to work his way on the back flank. Shuttle with a good catch, catches the pixel of Super's head there right off the corner, but can't make it any further than that. Grixer shuts him down, and the Soniqs get a much more consistent win here in the second round.
Okay, so I want to see what Astralis does here. I don't think that we're going to get the tactical timeout just yet. I could be wrong about that, but they're more than likely definitely going to be going for a site change here. And honestly, it's nothing special that Soniqs are doing with their offense. They're simply gathering map control through library as well as Ego Balcony, getting control of the main library hallway as well as holding on to the actual library balcony, and just simply making sure that Astralis is not allowed to flank. Outside of that, they're not doing anything revolutionary. You know, I think that the thing for the defensive game right there for Astralis is that they're trying to hold on to that bottom floor and make sure that Soniqs can't really have too much control over what goes on inside of Office, but time and time again, they're not able to achieve that job. They're not able to stop Soniqs from getting the Office wall open. And then all this pressure starts to pour in, and Astralis really doesn't have anything to do about it. They can't really get a flank off. All of their flanks so far have been shut down. It's just very lacking in a lot of different areas right now for Astralis. They just simply don't have a leg to stand on right now with that setup. So I really like that they're adjusting things here. I don't think the tactical timeout should be called at all. I think that they should honestly be reserving that. So it's better to just move off to this other site and see if they can possibly get some more frag potential.
Agree wholeheartedly. And bouncing off that point, I do think that things are going to be, at very minimum, at least a little bit harder here initially for the Soniqs. Unlike the last round, they don't have that like free opening kill, because it seems like Astralis never really realized how the bookcase player was getting found out inside of Office, that there was a drone that snuck past them 2 times in a row. They didn't seem to be really fully aware of that. So, you know, Soniqs isn't going to have that free 5v4 being presented to them anymore. They are going to have to work a little bit harder for that opening pick, and that will hopefully give some greater strength to Astralis. I say that, but ultimately, Soniqs could find just as easy of a path towards that opening kill here on a different site. So let's see if that is going to happen. Obviously, won't be happening towards Solarium. That thing is stacked to the bits with utility, so DP Fire will be safe here for quite a while.
Well, we'll see how long he's safe here for. We've seen some pretty terrible things happen to the guy that plays in this position.
See who's down below in the basement too. It's
yeah,
Rexon
exactly.
with the lifeline.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. The teams have gotten so creative already with dealing with the Solarian position, and yes, now the concussion's starting to pour in a nade as well. And DP fire. Well, John, you said he'd last a while, but I mean, well, it doesn't seem like he's gonna last too long.
The while's subjective, right? You know, a minute could be a while here.
I don't know, man. I'll have to ask my girlfriend or something. You know, maybe a while is a little bit longer to her. It is just, that's just how it is. So you never know, man. But the Soniqs are going to at least be able to get off their leadoff pick here onto DP Fire. They'll be able to pick that up in Astralis. Looking worse for wear moving forward. EE1D is out, but Iconic will at least be able to fire back almost with that secondary frag, but not able to get it done. They'll be right on the tailcoats of Supra, but is he aware of the two men that are currently trying to clamber directly in behind him? And no, he'll be a little late on the ADS there as he'll lose his life as well. And this is the best Astralis round that we've seen so far throughout Chalet.
Excellent re-aggression to get them back on their feet, and even more so in this specific situation here. Shuttle will reignite the laser gates blocking off Solarium, and that kills most of the aggressive potential from the player on the rappel right now. They are trying to figure out if there's any way to suss these players out of position, but it's not going to happen so easily here. More than anything, Yeti is hoping for a swing or a potential mistake, a peek of the head, that he can try and capture something from the Astralis roster, but they're not being given it. With less than a minute remaining here, there's not really any reason for Astralis to get that aggressive, considering they already hold the player advantage. All members of the Soniqs are fully locked and focused on this. The nade does succeed in baiting out Shuttle, as it was obviously a hope that there would just be one player down there, but still, now you've got it even into a 3v3, and you need to push the site with 35 seconds left. It's certainly doable by the Soniqs, but quite a bit of utility still needs to be cleared out, and there's also off-site players to be dealt with too.
Well, Astralis have the bodies back in sight to be able to hold on to this. J9 obviously able to play spoils here with his positioning upstairs. We'll see if he's able to get any of these frags on the rotation. Getting really, really low on the timer here, dwindling. And Rexon's going to end up popping the head of Yeti as well. Rexon will be able to clean up Iconic, though, so he'll be able to equalize once again. But J9, he strikes at the proper moment. He'll take down one as he'll try and get inside of Dining. Grixer, can he get both? Oh, no! What so just happened right there? Retro ends up losing the plot, doesn't know that the man's inside of West Main, almost at a loss for words as to what just happened and took place. But either way, Astralis are going to be able to get away with that by the skin of their teeth, and luckily enough, J9 was there and had his head on right.
Astralis sneaking a win off of there after they're able to reignite the pressure on the inside of Solarium in the mid-round, after the Soniqs had already taken control of it as well. Take that back for themselves and then play on that position to waste out a large majority of the remaining time, as well as the attacker utility. That last frag grenade coming out there, yes, does secure the kill and evens things out to a 3v3, but leaves them with very little option to get onto the site. More importantly, distract the remaining three-player setup on the site for Astralis there. Despite that fact, though, as we saw, Grixer still able to sneak past one of the remaining two in the final seconds. It's only due to a lack of time that he doesn't get the opportunity to gun duel versus the final player and potentially win out the round for the Soniqs.
Yeah, that was such a terrifying moment there as well for any Astralis fan at home, because Grixer with that firearm, if he had any more time at all, even if it was 1 second, he more than likely ends up taking that last member down, and they're going to have yet another round. But either way, it's going to be a timeout here from Astralis, and honestly, a very, very positive thing for them. They're able to get around Mustard, as well as actually have some time to talk to their coach, you know, cool some of these tempers down just a little bit, get everyone on the same page, because it's a little disconnected right now. Some of the earlier engagements really aren't going Astralis's way like they would want to, and well, that's the time for the coach to step in and have a word. So we're about 10 seconds out from getting back into this, but we'll see what Easily wants to adjust with his squad.
Yeah, either way, this is a very tense match right now. The rounds that Astralis reasonably could have won or won themselves, which is rounds 3 and number 1, have been very, very close and have come down to the matter of 1 or 2 trades going in the wrong or right direction, as we just saw in the previous round there. So definitely want to try and clean things up a bit, even if they're coming close to closing things out. They definitely want wins that are a little bit more one side in their favor, such as the one that the Soniqs got for themselves back on round number 2. So we'll see if that type of performance can be found at all here from Astralis, as they're going to be shifting sites yet again and heading over here towards Bar Stock. The usual go-to for quite a few teams here, but only going to see it as a tertiary site today for Astralis.
There's been a big change up with a lot of these sites inside of Chalet from the original map up until now. A lot of the times the basement site being the priority, whereas that is not the case in the slightest when it comes to the new Chalet. In fact, it's one of the most undefendable sites on the entirety of the map, depending on the team that you ask. We've actually seen some teams be successful down there, but win rate wise, it's not the greatest, mostly due to the wine cellar side and how they changed things up over there. So a lot of teams have been prioritizing kitchen as well as master, and this site that you see right now. Games and bar, which is a pretty interesting one. Actually, we can actually talk about something pretty cool here, because the last member of Most Wanted actually just got taken off of SSG, Thinking Nade, which was one of the original players from SSG, and they're the team that made this site viable on Old Chalet, and it was one of the reasons that a lot of people started looking into playing that on the original map, and it's just kind of cool that it's actually worked its way into the meta and is played regularly now. So a little bit of Siege history there for you guys along with that. So we'll see what they're able to, well, what the Soniqs are able to do with this defensive setup from Astralis.
Rexon at the moment just kind of opening up a couple pathways here that he can hopefully abuse if somebody from Astralis tries to step across it. Not going to be able to find anything too advantageous just as of yet. But the Soniqs are working on other things as well, such as this basement push that's currently being at least set up in the making of here by members of the Soniqs, between Super and at least one other player down towards the basement. There is counters to this, though. As soon as they try to swing up blue, you've got Iconic standing in the way. Should be similar defenses towards the front lobby, although it's looking quite weak there in the current point of time, which is why Soniqs are going to try and go through that route. Spotting the top down, though, they'll be cautious of that, as there's more than likely the library player set up to use that outside of the main wall that blocks access to the hallway outside from the library. And we'll see now. I believe that player is going to be J90 or someone else. Shuttle, excuse me. If Shuttle will get the chance to react to this and spot the lurk coming up those main stairs. Not looking like it.
It's already over.
Walks right in,
Retro
takes
was
down
inside,
Retro.
bro.
Yep.
No, they're in, bro. Like,
yeah,
they're actually
right, take it away. Take the cast.
No, not that. It's the fact that they're in sight, I think. How the heck did this guy die?
No, it was the pick, bro.
Where?
What are you talking about?
No, what? Where? No, the Retro was the one played inside a bar stock. How did he even
Clearly
die in this position? Where is Grixer? What has happened here? Oh, that is just so very confusing. But still,
okay, I'm gonna take it back.
Get the initial frags here. But I mean, you know, Iconic still holding on to this position up top, and yeah, I mean, yeah, they're able to get the initial frag here, but they really haven't taken too much control of the site outside of that. It was just very, very strange that they're able to muster that frag and not push forward off of it. So don't necessarily know how Retro ended up losing his life there. I think we just got a piece of the puzzle, actually. I think you're actually able to torch a line at the bottom of the stock wall from the stairwell, and then they just simply shot him through it. So they didn't flood the site how I initially thought they were going to on the stairwell. That's why I was like, they're literally in sight. But no, not the case. And speaking of which, Yeti and the rest of the Soniqs are also going to have a flawless round in the process of all of us figuring that out.
In the site, for the record. I don't think they ever once set foot in the site, except for maybe at the very end there. But yeah, Soniqs just kind of picking their way to victory, basically, opening up very, very small angles, and in a few cases, Astralis taking the bait, as we saw with Iconic going for the duel over at the top blue stairs there. But away from that, for the most part, just Soniqs finding these very, very tiny angles and getting picks against the members of Astralis to ultimately just kind of frag trade their way to a win.
Yeah, I mean, that's an angle that I don't think any of us have actually seen. I haven't seen that. I don't think I've seen a single person torch the wall for bar stock for bar stock from the staircase and actually end up killing the bar stock player through that. That was a very interesting way to end up handling that situation, because that player is so pivotal inside of sight. And that's honestly why I reacted the way that I did, because we saw them coming up main. I'm like, oh, are they just going to go for a flood in through bar and just try and kill the stock player? You know, what's going to happen here? And no, they end up picking him from the stairwell right here. So, I mean, that's just honestly an insane round. I have not seen that just yet. So good on Soniqs for finding that.
Creative find coming out from the Soniqs roster there to net them their first kill, causing quite a bit of doubt for the Astralis camp, too, making them try to figure out, like, okay, like, what happens after that first kill? Because I'm sure they were just as confused as you were out of that situation with the kill kind of happening so suddenly and being the on-site player. So clearly, that side hallway, that stock closet, not going to be as secure in the future now compared to what other players have thought of it before. So Astralis will certainly be cautious of that. Retro, more than anyone, will be cautious of that, as we will be going for a repeat of the same site, and for the most part, the same setup going out now for Astralis to try and pick up their second round as we inch towards the end of the half.
Yeah, we'll see what they want to do here. If we can pay attention to Yeti's positioning, I highly doubt that they go for this a second time, to be fair, though. It kind of feels like kind of one of those ace in the hole kind of things. Like, hey, we do this once and it worked, and we kind of can't go back and follow through on it again, because I'll more than likely lose a life in that way, just because of like the way that obviously the torch lines go. Somebody's got to be holding the angle, pre-fire that, probably going to end up killing somebody. But either way, Soniqs able to get that off of a pretty cool setup the last time around. But this time, looks like they want to do things a little bit differently. They're still going to get some intel down low here. Currently, though, Yeti is working on Library, where he'll be droning here for a while. He's by himself, so don't expect any pushes forward, especially because of the kit that he's playing. Do not want to lose that Maverick just yet here, but the Soniqs still in the beginnings of their setup. Just simply want to see what Astralis have going on this time around to see if there is any true adjustments to the overall game plan.
Aside from that, though, very, very quiet days in the opening few seconds of the round. Soniqs have been giving us very explosive attacks when they are finally ready for them. So that's the point we're building up to right now, as they try to gather an info bank of positional info against the members of Astralis right now. They are going to get the info that Retro once again is hiding out there. And Retro seems to be aware of how he was killed in the last round and has made it very obvious for us. So yeah, once again, maving through that sidewall that goes to the staircase. He's now watching out for that in the event they try to go for it twice. This could ultimately be a good distraction, though, as I don't believe Soniqs are planning to go for that at all. So look at this. Grixer. Unfortunately, it's only the clone Yata, so not going to be able to get the kill out right here, but does find the fact that Retro is kind of standing in the open. He probably won't anymore now that he's been spotted out by the clone, but still, there's a possibility where Yeti or someone else sneaks down here and tries to go for that in the future.
Well, this is where things start to become very risky for both sides here, especially on this blue staircase position right now for Yeti. Possibly have a push up here from Iconic. He's still got some toxic babes as well that he could possibly use inside of this positioning, but Astralis cannot give up another body here. That frag grenade won't be able to get anything done. No, not yet. And oh no, it seems as though the Mozzie's not aware. DP Fire doesn't hear the initial bullets from Grixer, and he'll be able to find the frag. Retro with a beautiful shot as well, and yes, he'll be able to hold on to bar stock this time around. Nitro Cell out, deals some serious damage to Rex, and Grixer also getting a lick as well. He'll end up going down to about 20 HP here, but oh no, another life lost. The Soniqs not able to try and work their way into sight, but they'll get two big frags. It's all up to Retro now. The bar stock player, he can't get it done. Kanzen, as well as the rest of the Soniqs, simply put too much pressure on the stock door, and he cannot get back across in time. Soniqs 4-1.
Similar story to what we had seen in previous rounds there from Astralis as well. All of the off-site or players that have to take earlier fights in the round come up empty for the most part, aside from 1 to 2 trades, which are pretty inconsequential, as you see there, when it comes down to the final 1vx. But similarly to previous rounds as well, that final player, whether it's Retro, Shuttle, or someone else, DP Fire perhaps, nearly is able to hold the line and pick up some really excellent, impact on the overall round, but because of the futility of the situation, is not able to translate it into an outright win. So Astralis still looking to find general improvements to their defense here, as it's always coming down to the last player, and while that player is sometimes getting a bit close, or at least putting up a good fight, they're not able to push it anywhere close to all the way. So Soniqs are still dominating in an overall sense here, as you said, at 4-1 here. We're going to go back upstairs, now to the inside of the bedroom and office sites, to see if Astralis can finally negotiate themselves the second round.
Yeah, a lot of clutch hero being played here from Astralis so far, as it seems like everyone just gets a superpower when they are that last person alive, ends up taking out 2 or 3 people depending on the round, right? And then just everything goes by the wayside anyways, so a bunch of exit frags at the end of the day.
It's like someone's like the last human in Halo Zombies or something, like.
It's literally the end of Halo Reach, just like survive.
Like 300 HP, yeah.
5 seconds to insertion.
Like, you literally have the entirety of, the elites and everything else is pouring into the building. Just terrible situation for you. But, I mean, still, Astralis have been able to try and fight back in those scenarios. So, I mean, at least a tip of the hat in that sense. But, I mean, the Soniqs, this has been the most cool, calm, and collected siege I've seen from them since we were back at stage 2. I mean, this just looks like regular old Soniqs. They're doing a very, very good job of clearing out the building and making sure that Astralis are limited in what their next moves are going to be. It's just a very solid siege overall. So it's going to be up to Astralis to really make these adjustments. And the sad thing is their timeout's already been expended. So easily already having an opportunity to talk to these guys, and now they're in the thick of it. They have to try and figure this out on their own.
You'd hope that easily, given his history with the Soniqs as well, would have some decent intel about how the Sonics are approaching the situation, but remember, it's a very new roster compared to his time on it, so very possible that a lot of that is completely shifted or no longer relevant when he has to offer in this type of counter-strat situation, but obviously still has his own experience to fall back on, and well, it hasn't led to too much success as of yet. It's still there to be used by Astralis at any moment here. Once again, Sonics are going through the same motions. Still that same position from Astralis over by the bookcase as well. Attackers have brought frags on Yeti, so there is the possibility of them trying to get that early kill, but Jane, I know, now that the walls are open, is going to make a smart call back away from this, given what's happened on the two previous defenses there.
Well, as you said, they've been in this situation before, so they should have at least some more fresh answers. Let's see what they want to try and do now. Soniqs looking for this initial frag that they were able to get once before, but this time it's not coming as easily. Grixer almost able to take down Retro, though, inside of Piano, and that will soften up this side. J9 obviously going to be able to assist here with an angle of his own a little bit farther back. He'll be able to split his vision in between these two different areas here, able to cover Eagle Balcony as well as his push for Piano whenever it does start to come in here. Soniqs, though, still have plenty of time to be able to work a lot of these different areas, and Grixer will be able to take down Retro. The plant starts now. Super has a smoke down as well here. J9 will be able to at least claim one life, but Super will be able to confirm. It's going to be over into the post plant to try and solve this now for the Soniqs. Super taking a lot of heat.
Super in a very exposed position while planting, but still was able to make it outside to the back side of the site, where they're trying to play this post plant out. It's rough, though. Kansan with a big find there against Shuttlehead, breached his way forward, and Iconic's already down on the ground, so it's all up to DP Fire here right now. Is a timeline where he could potentially go over and get DP Fire, but that's going to be a very tough task, and he might just be able to frag it out on his own anyways. He takes down Kansan. Yeti is all that's left. He's taking it to the most extreme angle he possibly can as he holds it back now, commits to the swing, but that's the winning strategy as the Soniqs claim a 5th at the end of the half.
Very well done there for Yeti. Simply playing things out on the timer and making it hard for Astralis to try and bring it back in that regard. The post plant was looking quite solid for Astralis, especially with some of the initial damage that they were able to get. But the biggest thing there being Iconic with a wild swing out onto the balcony to try and claim any lives playing the library hallway, as well as one that he could possibly see on the balcony, just ended up not going his way, and he ends up getting down there and just not work out for Astralis. They can't trade out in the way that they want to, and they'll lose the round because of it. It's a 5-1 split as they'll go to their offensive side, just not able to get these defenses put together like they wanted to, and it was really all the Soniqs all the time inside of that half, where we saw them just play very straightforward siege. They knew what Astralis wanted to do with the map, and it ended up being a lot of, roaming, a lot of rotations to try and get in behind Soniqs and have some sort of impact in that way. There wasn't a lot of heads-up play going on from Astralis inside of that round, where we saw just a lot of, heads-up gunfights going on and things like that. Instead, it was a lot of maneuvering around the map to try and find the gaps in Soniqs' offense. But the thing is that there was simply just gaps lacking. Soniqs looked very, very clean on that half. So we'll see what Astralis can possibly do now that they've switched gears.
There was a really quickly put together post plant too from the Soniqs, considering they probably didn't realize whether Yeti was, or not Yeti, Super was going to be able to make it out or not after the plant had gone down, because I didn't think he was. I thought he was a dead player and we were going to be in a 2v4. But the fact that he made it out and they got everybody back there, and those angles don't really work too well for the attackers after they've gotten their post plant, so they were kind of far away from that too. The fact that they were still able to win that, given that they were down a player, was very surprising. Great work coming out from the Soniqs, given the circumstances they were playing under after successfully getting that plant down onto the ground. They're looking really strong right now, and it's going to be a lot of work needed from Astralis, even though we are in a new half, to try and come back here and try and claim the map, because the Soniqs just look absolutely brutal against Astralis today. But let's give it a chance here at the minimum as we go into the very first round of the second half, and already Astralis have begun the slow process of trying to take some of this map control away from the Soniqs.
And this is a very, very big difference for the Soniqs in play styles when it comes to the previous Chalets that they've played recently, because the last two that I believe that they played were both up against Cyclops, and they lost both of them. And as you and I both know from the Mexico Major, Cyclops is a heck of a squad. Those guys have such a unique play style that I honestly don't think anybody else can really recreate. Those guys are just truly elite in what they're doing, especially with people like Anaton and his Monty, but obviously not going to be having to deal with any of that when it comes to the Astralis camp, as they'll start to break things up here. They've already gotten a little bit of library control, and Unable to pop this wall. Actually, excuse me. They've gotten some office control and able to pop the wall towards library hallway here. Starting to work over towards balcony. That's where Yeti will be positioned with a deployable shield. Obviously, he'll have the counter angle to at least assist somewhat. Grixer, though, starting to come under some fires. J9 will find 2 big frags now inside of the site. But is he worried about the counter angle here? No. Kansan able to step up inside of the hallway. He'll take him down as the Soniqs reclaim site.
Astralis now down as a result of those trades, with only Retro and Shuttle to make up the difference here in the 2 versus 3. As far as Soniqs' control is gone here, not anything on the second floor to play off of, but they do have everything in the site, and that's what's important, or at least 2 of them playing from that position. Kansan's still going to maintain the cross the hall. Actually, no, he's in the site too, so correct me. He's going to be playing from just by the jukebox spot, watching for the hallway pushes. Rexon as well gets the perfect headshot angle against Retro. No issues at all. Taking a player out, considering this is a one-shot headshot game after all. And now Shuttle left in a very lonely world here in a 1v3, a very quiet one as well, for only 35 seconds left in the match. But these Soniqs players are not going to be moving an inch. There's no reason for them to. There's no reason really for them to get aggressive at this point either, other than wanting to speed this match up and get home earlier, which is hopefully something that's not happening here right now. But either way, Nitros are starting to work their way out as they very much realize where Shuttle is coming from. This is not looking winnable, and indeed it won't be. Rexon finishes things off here, and the Soniqs will go up on map point.
Yeah, I think Astralis thought that they had a lot more potential once they got site control than they actually did, because the biggest thing is there, J9 walks in, he's able to get 2 big frags. They still have a singular member of the Soniqs inside of the site, but they're over inside of games instead, and not an immediate threat to the players, especially J9 for Astralis. The biggest thing there being that Astralis didn't have control of the other facets of the area, as well as they just simply didn't have any other way to try and support the play that was going on inside of bar. We still have a lot of positioning from Astralis members upstairs, and that's perfectly fine. But the issue is that not only did they not have angles to assist anybody, but it didn't really seem as though they were getting too much done up against any of the other Soniqs members either. All of those members allowed to get back towards site. They take out J9, take down quite a few other Astralis members in the process of that as well. Reclaim site and then simply sit on their hands. As you said, there was nothing more for them to do outside of that. Once they got site control again, it's all up to Astralis to try and get anything done. And when you're down to 2, make it 1 member at that last bit there, it's almost impossible to try and achieve that. So Soniqs with yet another round that they're able to secure, and this is looking like a 7-1 if I've ever seen one.
So the Soniqs looking to complete the legacy here with just 1 more round stands in their way. And for Astralis, starting off with a rough first match here. This is the way things are going to go under this new org, but hopefully they can rebound at least a little bit here. Try to get a few more rounds on the attacking side before this match ultimately concludes, whether that will be in a tied overtime situation, possibly in the favor of Astralis, or in 7-1. Unfortunate defeat for Astralis as well. We will certainly find out, as they are approaching the rappel angles for Solarium and quite a few other entry points to the building now. Let's see if Super or anyone else, the Soniqs will contest. It's actually not looking like it. The Soniqs playing a very reserved setup right now, which is going to allow for Astralis to take quite a bit of control easily early on.
Yeah, Sonic's going to have a different cut here on this site, and honestly, I really like it. This is a little bit more reserved for the Solarium player, and it puts them at a lot less risk. The only issue is now is, well, Iconic's positioning. This is the biggest thing. That oversees most of Master, but it looks like they have an answer for that. The Nitro Cell is actually going to fall short, so Kansan not actually going to get any damage done to the opponent, and not to himself either. Thought he'd end up getting a little bit of splash damage, but it's not going to be the case. They will be able to at least pop some holes here, so it's going to be difficult for Iconic to try and work this angle if he wants to do something like work it upside down. Some concussions are now going to start pouring in here, but Rexon's ready for this. Stun Grenade's going to come along with it, but he's got solid positioning throughout this top floor to be able to maneuver around and keep himself alive. Glitcher's going to take a lot of heat in the process, though, of Astralis breaking up this top floor, as they'll start to swing in Solarium and see what they can possibly get done. Iconic will finally be able to find the first blood here for Astralis. A big pickup onto Yeti.
Going to be against a run out as well. Yeti trying to get himself out the basement door there and is caught in the process. Rexon still in a delicate dance in the meanwhile over here by Master. The mirror window does look like it's been breached open, and I think we saw some bullets coming through it before, so I hope that is indeed the case, meaning that he no longer has the full security he's had in the past, and well, unfortunately doesn't have the teammates he's had in the past either, as Iconic finds another swift kill here. Kansan goes down for the Soniqs roster. Still a winnable situation, given you've got both Rexon and Grixer alive, but a 3v5 is starting to get very, very rough indeed here, as we boil down to the last minute
Astralis being very patient on this offense. Seemingly worried that the Soniqs will attempt to try and equalize here, but it's a long road ahead of them to do that. 3 versus 5 currently. The timer continues to dwindle for this offensive squad, but they still have so much intel game to work with that more than likely going to be able to read out Grixer and Super's position here. J9 will have a freebie as Grixer drops the hatch. Very well read from Astralis thus far. Super also loses life as he oversteps around the bomb chassis there. It's now up all to Rexon to try and complete this in a 1 versus 5, and it's not going to be the case. Astralis with a flawless round to kick us off on their offensive half.
Way too confident of a hold there coming in from the Soniqs, in my opinion. A lot of risks being taken with the setup, a lot of free control potentially being given over to Astralis as a result of those setup choices, and it just doesn't really work out for the Soniqs. Astralis is able to find those early picks far too easily and far too quickly, and we have another situation where the attacking force just completely overwhelms the defenders by the time they approach the site there, and it's a very easy way for them to walk on, clean up that last player or two, and in this case, find their second round.
Yeah, the Soniqs simply just were not allowed to play Master how they wanted to at all. Like at
plan
all.
They did not work.
Yeah, like immediately Iconic gets on the window. He's like, okay, there's a shield here and there's a mirror window there. They pop the mirror window in like 45 seconds.
It seems
no
like
one's allowed to play behind the shield, and even Kansan misfires down low with the nitro cell as well as holding the angle. So just very difficult.
They lost the mirror window that was sitting inside that was sitting on the outside of Solarium like really quickly there too.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. They popped it like 45 seconds in.
It seemed like they really needed that initial nitro to get the kill. If they did, I think that round would have gone the complete polar opposite direction, at least with regards to the upstairs hold. Still some possibility they snuck in on the first floor of the basement or something like that. But I think that round would have gone much more smoothly for the Soniqs. So that first nitro was thrown like 3 or 4 seconds later. As obviously they didn't have the capability to use that later. The player that was doing Overwatch couldn't really do the job in the way that they needed to. So then Kansan had to watch his back as well as his front side, and it just made a whole mess of a situation up there.
Man, just get eyes in the back of your head. It'll make your job a lot easier, you know?
I mean, basically, like, the setup for Solarium ended up being more of a master window Overwatch than anything else by the time the round was over, because it just couldn't really watch Solarium that often.
Yeah. Honestly, that was the biggest thing there. You know, Master just going by the wayside there for Soniqs, but now they're going to be changing things up. They're going to be going to the basement for the very first time here inside of this best of 1. Soniqs on the precipice of taking this map, and they're trying to get it done with this basement defense. And if you guys were here earlier inside of the broadcast and heard us talking about some of the sites, this is actually the hardest to defend site out of all of the sites on Chalet, at least from the start up until now. Inside of the NAL, we've had some change-ups here. This defensive win rate on this site has changed up in recent history. I think initially when the map got implemented, it was around like 20 to 30%, and now it's sitting happily around that 40 to 50% area. So pretty cool to see it starting to rebound, but that doesn't mean that it's been made any easier. It's mostly the A side of the site, the wine cellar side, we see a lot of these offenses try to go for because of the wall setup down there. You have 2 double walls that if you're able to get any sort of holes poked into, it makes it very difficult for some of these defender positions to try and be adopted. We'll see what Astralis want to try and do with this, but you can see the Soniqs have set up on this side here to try and prevent any of this from happening.
I like this policy from the Soniqs. They did this on a few other maps too. Where okay, we lose a round defending a more traditional defender site. Let's go on an even harder one, because while yes, it will generally be easier for the attackers statistically, there's also a chance that because it's harder for the defenders, it's getting played less, and the attacking team might not have their strategies well rounded out for it as a result of that lessened play. Doesn't necessarily look like that's the case right now here though for Astralis, as they're going through the motions quite easily to open up the wine hatch, or the wine walls, excuse me, and a path forward for the rest of their play.
I mean, to be completely fair, Chalet, at least this side, and doing what they're doing right now, this is the exact same thing that you used to do on old Chalet. You pop the hole, you pop the holes for Big Garage, and then you start working on the other panel to try and get some pressure on the side of the actual site. So it hasn't changed up that much. It's just that the walls have more influence overall than they did previously. They still obviously had a ton, but the crosses that exist with these walls are just so very detrimental to the defense. Iconic ended up taking down Super very early on here. Lackluster game from him thus far, 1-8-2, and Grixer also going to go down as well. Astralis starting to pick up the pieces here, but oh no, some shots go wide for Yeti. He thought he had the headshot, but he'll be able to at least clean it up here. He takes down J9, and now has solid positioning inside a Big Garage.
Yeah, this is a very powerful position for Yeti to play off of. Astralis now have to constantly watch their back as they work their way in. Kansan needs to be the hero on the site, though, as Yeti can't get the job done from the flank. First planet attempt going down now from Retro. It's quickly interrupted as they try to deal with Kansas. He's going to get overwhelmed with flashbangs, but the problem is those flashes hit Shuttle just as well. Thankfully, Kansas was not aware of the fact that Shuttle was behind him, so he's given no chance to react to that. Could have gone poorly, though, had had Kansas picked up that information for himself at some point during the play, but hey, good news for the Astralis camp as Kansas had so many flashes coming his way. There's no realistic way he could have discerned that info. Another successful attack for Astralis, though, and arguably one of the more attacker-sided sites. We're going to go back to a bar and gaming defense for, once again, Soniqs' potential map point.
Yeah, well, we're at the carnival and we're on the site carousel here, my friend. We just keep it going for the Soniqs. They'll be changing things up once again here. As you said, bar gaming going to be the choice this time around. And no Frost inside of this lineup for the defense either. It's one of those operators that we usually tend to see on this site just because of the amount of window play that goes into this area and the potential of a freebie if somebody does hop and ends up looking wrong. Obviously, though, for Soniqs, they're not going to be sweating just yet. They still have 2 opportunities here. Well, technically 3 if you want to get down to it, to try and take this without Astralis guaranteeing overtime. So, you know, this is a pretty big deal when it comes down to it. Astralis still with a very long way to go if they want to try and push it to OT.
Let's see, indeed, though, as they are well on the warpath now. These are not just thrown away rounds by the Soniqs. These are true wins coming out from Astralis here. And it could potentially take them all the way. Number 6 here, we triggered the OT, but we got to get past some of the more difficult setups here from the Soniqs first. Some of the rounds that they've already been able to control for themselves. And the sites they've done so as well. Here comes Astralis once again on the attack, though. They're out and about to see if they have what it takes to clear out this upstairs hold. Conversely, take control of the bar and game site.
Well, Super will be the lone member currently for the Soniqs on site, but that's something that we would expect here. This is the positioning that we saw Retro play from before, and very solid setup when it comes to a mirror window, able to overlook the entirety of Games Room, as well as be within earshot for what's going on inside of Bar. Looks like we have a HUD bug here for Iconic. We'll see what the admin wants to do about this as we are 40 seconds in, but we will continue until we have a comm about this. So for the Soniqs, this hold up top actually going to be supported from Yeti here. His own Black Mirror. Rexon starting to have quite a bit of utility poured in on top of him. And yeah, we actually are going to get the rehost confirmed a minute into the round here. So everyone simply going to stop, more than likely not going to see anybody move forward. And yes, in come the disconnect. So you guys will be hearing us here for a little bit as we get this figured out and them back in to see what the conclusion of Astralis versus the Soniqs will be.
The news is it's going to be a little bit shorter than even usually we get here because thankfully that last round ended the game. Normally we need to do 1 extra round during rehost to force that state, but no longer the case. So we've already got our admin team working on, we're setting up the lobby right now, and it should just be, hopefully folks, about 2 or 3 minutes here before we jump back in if we have all the players ready and standing by. But once again, like we were talking about before the rehost was called, Astralis on a bit of a warpath for this attacking side, finally able to control, once again, the early round being incredibly important for deciding how a lot of these rounds are going today. And I think that that applies to this matchup as well. As we had seen in a lot of the previous rounds, the Soniqs very much dominated that state of the game, even for the opening rounds of their defense, too, constantly forcing the Astralis roster to play a player or sometimes even 2 players down, and that's just not feasible with this spread out style they were trying to go for specifically on their defense. On the attack, though, things are looking much, much better, and they're causing a lot of those same issues to happen, but instead over on the Sonic side of things instead.
Yeah, absolutely. Honestly, I think the thing that can't go unnoticed for this offensive side for Astralis is Iconic's impact very early on inside of these rounds. He's been able to muster so many very influential kills, especially when it comes to the initial frag as well. He's been able to get some very, very influential kills here. So we'll see if they're able to continue doing so. But Astralis's map work on this offensive side so far has been stellar, to say the least. As for the Soniqs, I don't think that they've done anything poor throughout this defensive half. I think that, especially inside of that last round there, you know, the Soniqs made their plays and they simply had to lay with it at the end of the day. That's how it is. You make the bed and you lay in it. I mean, they had the big play with, like, what I wanted to say is they had the big play with Yeti there, but they didn't really have anything else happen outside of him getting to that position to try and draw anyone away from that. So he's just kind of dead in the water. You don't really have anything else to do there. You're just now waiting for your name to be on the kill feed. So kind of a rough situation there for them, so we'll see what they can do with this next round.
I think in these first two rounds that have not gone the way of the Sonics on the inside of this half here has come down more to poor strategic, man, I can't say this word. Strategical. Excuse me, I couldn't get that out of my mouth for some reason. Poor strategical decision making more than anything else here, such as the choice to go for the more passive hold on Solarium in the first round they dropped and try to pull off that rotate setup that allowed them to have a mirror window, which obviously did not pan out. Similarly, going to the basement, the site for that usually does not work out too well for the defenders, obviously didn't pan out. We're going back into more normal territory, though, with this upcoming round that we already saw the first minute of before it got rehosted. So I think that there is a good possibility to go back into this and to see the Sonics shut it down now that we're returning to normality, it seems. But we'll get a closer look at that when we actually get into the round itself and take a peek at their setup one more time.
Yes, indeed, my friend. Just to remind you guys of the rehost rules, everyone has to play the exact same operator and they have to go back to the exact same site. This does not mean that they have to do the exact same thing with the site overall. They could maybe move an ADS over to a different corner or something like that. But besides that, there is nothing that they can do. You cannot see a 6-pick here away from anything that they had previously picked. So we'll see what is going to happen inside of this round. We've already gave you the initial preamble for this one. It's just going to be a pretty traditional bar gaming setup. Super is going to be playing inside of stock, and they'll just have that extended hold upstairs to try and slow down Astralis' offense. I want to see if Astralis with that little bit of a, we'll just call it a scrimmage, a practice offense there, if you will, if they end up clearing that position out faster for, I believe it was, yeah, it was, I thought it was Grixer the last time, but I think, but it's Rexen this time around with the alibi pick. I wonder if they end up clearing out that position inside of library a little bit quicker this time around.
We'll certainly get a good preview of that, because more likely that's going to be the first thing on Astralis' agenda. Might just approach in a slightly different way, since obviously their own strategy was given away in the first minute of the round, which technically has already been played out once. Here we're just doing it again. We got a very late rehost call for anyone who is just joining us. So this round did see its first minute or so of play. These teams do know a little bit about what they were intending to do here, and like Stokes said, due to the rules, they can't change the operator lineups, but they can change the strategy even to a slight degree, which should favor Astralis just a tad here, although not to any sort of game-breaking extent or anything like that. Let's see what Astralis is going to prioritize, though, as they're out about on the map, and it's looking much like the last round. They're going to go right for the library control.
Yeah, this is going to tell you right now who's playing checkers and who is playing chess. They both know what you want to do, what the opponent wants to do, and now they have to try and get in the way of it. So going to have the same positions adopted here for the Sonics on this top floor. Rexen once again in the corner for library. He'll have the supporting angle from the Black Mirror, and yes, he wants to get out of here. You can't blame him either, because the frag grenade's more than likely going to start pouring in here momentarily. Shuttle almost shooting his teammate through the window there for a split second, but luckily DP Fire stepping back at the proper moment there. Although Sonic's still going to be able to maintain this top control. And here comes that line that we were talking about before. This time around, though, the shoe is going to be on the other foot. And oh no, there's a vertical angle that they weren't worried about. And Yeti, yes indeed, able to take him down. As you said, you think you can just take that from us, kid? I don't think that's how this one works. So J9 ends up losing his life and possibly the round here, depending on how the rest of this is going to go down.
That's the ultimate difference, as we saw there. The Sonics, or rather Astralis on the last half, was not watching that angle. Sonics very much are, because when they pulled that move off and Retro got caught by it, I think someone on the Sonics probably made a call. It's like, guys, they're definitely going to try that to us once in the other half. So they were keeping a very close watch on that top-down hatch, at least around this point in the round itself as a result. That great impact comes out here from Yeti as well. Kills the first bit of the X Kairos. I don't believe he does not have another one here, so is not going to be able to do that again. But okay, he can do that, though. He can run out on a straight line angle here, take down DP Fire. The air jab actually pushed him into a safe pocket, and he does it again! Oh no! Astralis are falling apart at the seams here, yet he's making moves at the front lobby after getting air jabbed into a corner. He swings out and kills the player who put the very air jab there. It's down to just Retro and Iconic now in a 2v5.
Oh my goodness gracious. I just feel like, you know, the Shuttle's like the night janitor and he just wasn't doing security there for a second or something like that. He's just like, yeah, man, I don't know how they broke in. I don't really know. Like, seriously, dude? Like, they broke, like, everything. Ah, yeah, man, I don't really know. It's just so unfortunate for him.
We kicked them to a corner and taped them there, and you still couldn't stop them? Like
Yeah, he's like, yeah, he just ran away, man. I don't know. I guess he has legs. He just taped his hands. I
swear, man, he was like Sonic the Hedgehog or something. He was so fast.
Oh, retro! Oh no! Look at the crossfire though from the Soniqs, the team play there, folks. And that, folks, is why we were kind of having a laugh there at the end, because Yeti with a quad kill to put Astralis back in the bag. They were trying to crawl out of the body bag, folks. They had like one limb out, and they just simply moved it back in there and zip it shut. The Soniqs looking stellar to start stage 3.
It does seem, at least for day 1 here at the NAL, that the issues showing up at the Mexico Major were truly just issues there. And here on home turf, Soniqs are looking stronger than ever as they take a dominant opening stance against the newly birthed Astralis, formerly Disrupt, for anybody who's just joining us and is a little confused as to why we have Astralis in Rainbow Six. They are indeed here. Not the best first showing, but still, this is a great core team, and there is a bright future ahead, I think, for the Astralis roster.
Absolutely. I definitely think that they can eventually hold up the To The Stars moniker, but I feel like it's to the textbooks as of right now. They need to go back, get in these things, and start reading up as to what they need to change. And honestly, John, if I'm being real with you, I really feel like today is more nerves than anything for Astralis. With a huge org like this coming under you, it's just... It's a very, very different world that they're now, existing in. So
not to like hand out excuses or anything, but it is the first day back on land for quite a few of these teams too. It's been a good month or so since we've played in this arena, so there's definitely some factors that could have been playing into it. But ultimately, looking at both of these teams on an even terms basis, definitely still some improvements that need to be made for the Astralis roster. And Soniqs, in the meantime, are looking just as good, if not better than ever, with their play there on that map. So a little top heavy, obviously, as we kind of used to them being for the most part throughout most of this year, but overall, very, very strong core performance from the overall team.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that this shows just what both of these teams have been able to work on thus far. Obviously, Astralis, we're hoping to see some more from them throughout the rest of this stage. But for the Soniqs, what an amazing showing here today on Chalet. But that's going to do it for me and John, folks. We will see you guys tomorrow for more NAL action. But don't go anywhere. We got some beautiful analysts ready to talk to you.
Thank you so much for the beautiful guy with the Gucci polo. Shout out to Stokes and Blue for the amazing commentary, but shout out to Soniqs for pulling out that big win. The last time these two teams met, it was Soniqs that knocked then Disrupt Gaming, now Astralis, out of the Mexico Major. And to kick things off here, it's Playday number 1, stage 3. Soniqs did it yet again, winning on Chalet, beating Astralis. Fellas, Jesse and Jacob, help me break down the action.
Bro, it almost feels like new org syndrome in some way. Like, you get a new team, a new flashy brand, and then all of a sudden, like, your first game, you can't really perform up to standard. It's happened before. Back when Order picked up their new Australian team that used to be Mindfreak only, like, a couple of weeks ago, it was the exact same case. It's not the end of the world for Astralis, but it does just feel like, Stokes mentioned, the nerves could have just been getting to them in this game, and that's totally okay.
I mean, this was built up to be a rival battle. Two of the, champions of the league who hate each other were going up against one another, clashing. And then one of them fell flat. That was really unfortunate to watch from Astralis. The Soniqs proving, as they tend to do, that they are the better squad between these two. And, well, they'll take their first win of the stage.
Yeah, Jesse, ultimately, you were talking about the fact that, and it was a DG play style now Astralis, right? You said Astralis were playing a bit aggressive, and Soniqs just knew how to shut it down. And it kind of makes sense for the simple fact that you see Soniqs donning both different types of play styles, fast and slow. But they just had a better answer here on Chalet.
Yeah, it definitely felt like, I mean, we kind of talk about Disrupt as this young team, and I think that kind of comes with it. Ideas of very aggressive, fast playstyles, and they were really enjoying their roams, their early gunfights in that first half when they were really struggling to string together any defensive rounds at all. It definitely felt like Soniqs were doing a much better job at shutting that down, which is something they struggled with a lot these last couple of stages. Soniqs have never been a strong attacking team. They've always been better on their defenses. So to see them come out and shut that down, I thought was great. There's also a great point on Twitter, I believe, by Penguin from Parabellum that said that, you know what, this team is, Astralis are really just not adapting very well. Soniqs would go for the same take over and over again, and there were just no changes coming in from the side of Astralis. So, some things to fix here for sure.
probably one thing I noticed as like a continuation from their Mexico play was the idea of going for post plants with as many people up as they possibly could. It's like it's sometimes not even taking engagements for the Soniqs. They'd go all in, try to plant with 5 players up if they possibly could, sometimes without getting a single kill on the other side of the board, and that definitely did continue in this game against Astralis, and they, like you mentioned, didn't really have a counter or a way to adapt around it.
Well, Jacob, it's going to be hard to counter when, if you're an aggressive team, and take a look at the stats right now. I mean, take a look at the difference of opening kills versus opening deaths on the side of Astralis. Soniqs had their way with them, and it was to a point to where it just seemed like Soniqs, they were just floating around the map like Yeti, getting crazy kills. And speaking of Yeti, 12 kills, 5 deaths, but what he did that last round was just crazy, Jesse. We talked about the individual talent on this roster, and Yeti was one of the players that I actually said might have been a player to watch, and in that round right there, he was definitely that.
Yeah, I mean, Yeti's been a big player for the Soniqs in the past. For him to be able to come out here and do so well against Astralis, that's obviously going to pump them up. That last round particularly going off, and you saw him jump out of his seat after that.
Yes.
That's what we know Yeti for, and it's good to see him back on land.
All right, now when it comes to Astralis, Jacob, I think it's really important to point out the fact, okay, yeah, they lost. We're not saving them. We're not giving a pat on the backs or, you know, participation trophies right now. Yeah, we would have liked to see them win. They lost. It happens. Looking at them in the future, looking towards the future now, what are your expectations for this team for what we've seen so far? Because I'm going to be honest, there's glimpses of things that I love that I saw.
Stage 1, they were 4th place, then made a roster move. Stage 2, they got a coach in actually for the first time since they entered the NAL in the first place. And then they got 5th. So it's 4th, then 5th. So the trend would imply they get 6th in stage 3. But I'd argue they can't go that low. I think you are, like Retro mentioned, shooting for 4th place, trying to go to the November Major, wherever it might be. So the expectations for themselves are going to be really high. The expectations presumably from Astralis themselves are going to be really high, just because they want to make sure their investment is, you know, all good and locked in tight. I respect that, but I do think that this team still has more potential and the ability to do better than a game like this represents. We might have just seen a red hot Soniqs run through them today, or we might have seen a couple of fundamental problems from DG rear their ugly heads. I'm not sure which it is. It's only the first day. Time will tell. The stage is still young.
Best ones only tell half the story, right? Now, fellas, it's going to be time for MVP. Now, we've had a lot of great MVP performances. Kino popped off. Similar stat line to Yeti, I believe, as well. Jesse, who do you think gets MVP of the day today?
There's one answer for me.
Yeah, I mean, I forget this name. It's like old Jimmy or something. Is this, do you remember, Jacob?
Young Alec, that guy. I know that guy.
That's the one.
Yeah.
It's gotta be young Alec.
All right. So let's go ahead and see who the MVP of the day actually is. And when it comes to young Alec, he showed off in the best way ever. That, I believe it was a 3K or 4K in that first round where, when he was able to punch the last guy in the mouth. That was absolutely it. But the surprise goes to young Alec, making it big. And that is why the NAL is the best to ever do it. We get rookies that come into the scene, and they just go crazy like no other. The guy has been spectacular. We saw it with Kino and Yaga. Then we continuously saw it with players like Iconic. We have NJR, and now you have young Alec being a young boss with 14 kills, 6 deaths. And take a look at the opening kills to death ratio, 5 and 1. That's incredible. So, fellas, is the future looking bright for Beast Coast so far from what we've seen?
I mean, I hope so. I really do. I think Alec is a fantastic pickup. We hyped him up before that game even started. I'm not sold yet. It's a game against Sextet. They've got a lot more to prove, but it doesn't get much better for a young rookie than an opening like that. So, hey, I'm optimistic. I want to see Beast Coast go far this stage.
Let's
Jesse,
also see.
You saw the confidence coming in from him. Jacob, go ahead.
No, I was just going to mention, the only thing I don't want for Beast Coast is for this to be the crutch. If the only reason they get success is because Alec pops off, that might be a little bit concerning. I don't want it to be a case of one player carrying a whole team to a higher echelon. I want it to be because the whole team is working together. So, good game for Alec, but let's see how they evolve as Stage 3 goes on. You know what I mean?
All right, now talking about evolution, there's going to be a lot of evolution when it comes to this, right? Let's take a look at the standings so far for Playday #1. Now, remember, when it came to Stage 2, it was like a seesaw battle. It was like a bad argument. It just kept going back and forth. And the thing is, we couldn't predict who top 4 was going to be until the very last play day. But right about now, we saw the first win go to, Yeah, it was definitely Beast Coast. But when it comes to standings so far, Jesse, do you think it's going to be as crazy as it was last stage? Because last stage, I've never seen anything like it.
Well, last stage was really close, right? But it had kind of the old favorites getting back into top 4. Space Station, Dark Zero, TSM being top 4 was not really a surprise. Stage 1 had just the wildest teams that nobody expected making top 4. Mirage, Disrupt Gaming. Like, no offense to those teams, but it's like, those aren't the teams. But they were Disrupt at the time. I'm not messing up this one. But, you know, those aren't the teams that people typically expect to be at the top. We're one game in, Jacob. I don't think this is really too much to read into, but great start to the teams in the top 4 right now.
Jacob, looking at this list right now, it's kind of reminiscent. We see Soniqs on top with a very strong win, by the way. Shout out to them. But do you think there's going to be any surprises this stage?
You want to know what I want to factor in right now, but I can't? The team that didn't play a game today, the one right smack in the middle, 0-0, Dark Zero Esports, because they've got probably one of the most legendary names in Rainbow Six coming back onto their team, and we don't get to see them play all of this week for some very concerned health reasons. We just want to make sure that we're all okay, and Dark Zero will be back next week. They just won't play tomorrow. But everyone on this team could be either fall prey to Dark Zero or figure out exactly how they play super quickly, and I don't know which one the answer is. DZ is going to play spoiler to a lot of people's chances to make the major, as far as I'm concerned, and it's going to be really exciting to watch.
Yes, so speaking of exciting, let's take a look at the schedule. And once again, another reminder, if you guys watched that amazing video where Blue was riding around in a Bentley and I had a nice little suit on, we talked about a super week. We have multiple play days a week, and our second, very lucky of us, right, it's coming tomorrow, September 8th. The first match of the day will be Oxygen versus Mirage. But Jesse, do you see any other bangers right here? Oh, Soniqs versus Space Station Gaming.
Soniqs SSG will be good. I mean, Soniqs got a great win today, but that's going to be the one that will really test them. SSG, maybe in a bit of a weakened state, just picking up a new player. That's definitely one that I think Soniqs can come out and perhaps surprise some people. But Auction Mirage, I think you named it. That, for me, is the marquee match, the one that everybody's going to be looking out for. Excited for it.
Dude,
hey,
honestly,
Jacob, you're a football fan, right?
Oh, yeah, massive football fan.
Oh, I'm gonna let you say what you're gonna say, but have you ever heard of the term a trap game within divisions?
Yes, I have heard of trap
now
game.
Astralis versus Xset. I mean, hey, that might be a trap game. We might see a new Xset there with MVK on the roster. Do you think that was gonna be exciting as well?
Yeah, that was actually going to be what I was going to say. I think Astralis versus Xset, for some reason, seems like a really tantalizing matchup just on paper. Yes, it's the new Astralis guys. We want to see this team under this brand do super well, but it's also Xset, who I think can shore up a couple of the mistakes that they made in that Beast Coast game and find relative success if they're able to move quickly against a team like Astralis. So yeah, for some reason, that's the one I'm most oddly hyped about for all three for tomorrow.
All right, now to close out this desk right now, before we start prepping for Playday number 2 tomorrow, let's go ahead and say some nice words to the people out there. Jesse, you first. Show the people out there some love, man, and tell them why this stage is going to be better than ever, and that with teams like Astralis here, we're going to just go straight to the moon, man.
Well, listen, Veli, we've got one more stage here in our second season of the NAL. That means everything's on the line. You got to come out. You got to support your team in this stage because the 6 Invitational is up for grabs. The major as well will be fought for throughout this stage. So it should be a fantastic one. Extra special thanks to all the players or all the fans that came out to support Astralis for the first time. Obviously, if this was your first time watching Rainbow Six, this might have been new to you. And unfortunately, your team didn't get the result they were looking for. But there's plenty more of that action to come. So hopefully they can keep on going and improve for the rest of the stage.
Jacob, you got any nice words for the beautiful people out there?
We're into stage 3. This is a time that we haven't actually seen in Rainbow Six history before because we didn't have a stage 3 from last year. So it's new ground for a lot of teams that played in the 2020 season looking to acclimate into making international majors again, making SI again. This is yet again an example of how the NAL is supposed to be played out because we've got this third stage. Second stage in Mexico, that's in our rearview mirror. Take what you can from that, but we have to forge on for the future. And right now, several of these teams with their new roster changes have demonstrated exactly that, and some of them already are beginning to fall off. The storylines look interesting, but again, the stage is still super young, Belly.
The stage is young, but the storylines are even better than ever. This is basically the first time in the NAL we've seen old faces and old champions. I mean, shout out to Canadian on Dark Zero and also NVK on Xset, joining the likes of players like DP Fire, iconic. I mean, you have young Alec. These are just players that have never faced each other before, old and new. So I can't wait to see what this stage brings out. Is the veteran leadership on Dark Zero enough to bring players like Pamba to the top? It's only a matter of time until we find out. But ladies and gentlemen, that's pretty much it for today. We've had an amazing first day, but coming up tomorrow, we're going to have an even better one. I can't wait. Make sure you tune in, same place at the same time. This is the desk closing down now, and we'll see you next time for Rainbow Six Siege.